session titled More Than the Obvious, Unexplored Paths to High Impact Careers. In this session, we will explore impactful career paths that go beyond traditional roles, focusing on leveraging skills, money, and networks for global impact. We will cover options suited to different career stages. As the executive director at High Impact Professionals, Nina shapes the strategic direction of the organization and leads the Impact Accelerator program. Her experience as a strategy consultant specializing in negotiations has honed her skills in problem solving and strategic planning, essential for leading high impact professionals. Her background in software engineering provided her with the ability to pivot quickly and adopt an agile mindset, which is crucial in adapting our approaches and operations efficiently. She originally started her career with a PhD in mathematics from the University of Cambridge. As a reminder, if you have questions for the speakers or want to participate in the workshop, please submit everything via the Swapcard app. We'll be selecting a mix of questions and responses to, in addition with some prepared ones with the Q&A. We will also have office hours immediately following the session and gather round for continued discussion, which you will see on your Swapcard app. All right, please join me in welcoming Nina Friedrich.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Really lovely to have you. I hope you can see my slides. Is that correct? Fantastic. Okay. So I think of career transitions and career paths a little bit like mountaineering. So when you want to climb a mountain, you first have to figure out where you are at the moment. So what's your position? Let's say we're somewhere near this river, this like tiny little puddle of water, really. Next thing you need to figure out is where you want to go. So those mountains are basically like, you can think of them as different course areas, for example. So the green one on the right is maybe the farmed animal welfare mountain. The one in the back is maybe the one on climate change. And then the rocky one is maybe the global catastrophic risks. You can alternatively think of them as career paths. So one might be the management type role, one might be the researcher, one might be the operations mountain. So you pick one that you want to go to. Let's see, we're picking the rocky one here at the start. Now, we know where we are, we know where we want to get. So the thing that connects the two, obviously, is the path. And there are various ways of getting there. There are some paths that look much more direct. So looks like it's kind of the straightforward way, but it might actually be really steep. It might be a much harder path than going on what might look like a slightly further roundabout way, but actually is the easier path and is more likely to be a successful path. You could also choose to go the other way around. So lots of different ways of getting from where you are at the moment to where you want to go. But actually, there are more paths. You could choose to go to the left of the picture, where there might be a little mountaineering training camp, and you go there to gather some skills to then be in a much better position to go up that mountain. Or you might know that on the right of the screen, there's actually a little village. So you could go there and get some other people to climb the mountain with you. So instead of just you going up, get a team, go together up. And even if you don't make it all the way, because it's several of you, that might be achieving more good along the way than if you go by yourself. So there are lots of different ways how to get from a starting point to your ending point. Your starting point, you're the expert on. You know what your experience is, what your skills are, what you've seen, what you enjoy doing. So where you start, you are the expert on. There are lots of sessions this weekend around what is the thing that you want to tackle. So what we're going to talk about today is the path. So this is what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to give a high-level overview of high-impact careers. We're then going to dive much deeper into 10 different paths. There's a secret 11th path that we're going to go into, which is the career portfolio. And then you will have some time to explore options for you. So gathering a bunch of knowledge is good, but really much better is applying that to your situation and seeing how this can help you going forwards. So there will be some time for that. There's a bunch of resources that I won't be going through, but you'll get access to the slides, so you have them with you later. Okay, so overview of the paths. For the primary impact path, there are three main categories. You can choose to use your money to do good. So you can either donate your money, you can fundraise, you can move money to enable organizations and individuals to do more good work. You can also use your skills, so do direct work, directly get your hands into the good that's being done and directly supporting that. And the third one is you can get others to do some of the work. So encourage others to join, encourage others to pivot their careers, encourage others to donate, which is the network part where it's really about mobilizing your professional and personal network. This is very much the primary pathway. So obviously to get money to donate in the first place, you need to use your skills to get the money, but this is really talking about what is the thing that directly does good. So that's 3 only, I promised you 10. So let's see how those 10 fold under these 3 categories. We're gonna be sorting them a little bit, so it's a little bit easier to keep track of them. One is at the bottom, you're gonna see the career stage. So we're starting with early career, mid-career, and then going over to more senior careers, and you're gonna see where the different options fall. And then we also have an absorbency level. So how many people could currently go into that role? We'll see that some of them are just more restricted in terms of how many people we can throw at that particular path. Okay, so let's start with the money again. There are a couple of options that we're going to go in, which is the donation path and the founding to give path. For network, we're going to talk about leveraging a network and influencing your company. And then there's a bunch of ways how you can use your skills directly to do good. And we're going to go into them in more detail. Okay. We're all ready. Let's buckle up and go through the 10. First one is the donating one. So this is fairly straightforward. So you use your money to support organizations that can then do more of the amazing good that they're already doing. They can hire more people, they can support those people better, they can collaborate better with other organizations, and can achieve more good. So it's pretty straightforward, so I won't talk about it that much. The thing that I will say is if this is your path, make sure you make your future lives, your future self's life easier. So set yourself up in a way that is really easy for your future self to go along this path. This could be things like setting up regular donations rather than hoping that you'll remember at some point in the future to do them. This could be fixing a percentage to donate so that every time you get a raise in your role, you also donate a little bit more. This could be engaging in the community, talking to others who are on this path so that it isn't as isolating. One top tip is if you are on this path, signing a giving pledge can be really effective to both commit more and make it easier for your future self to stick to this donation and also encourage others, as we're going to see a little bit later on. So as an example, over 10,000 people have signed the 10% pledge, pledging to donate 10% of their income over the course of their career. Which is a fantastic number, and that number should really be so much larger, so let's keep growing it. You can sign the pledge through Giving What We Can, which is the organization that leads those pledges directly, or through one of the pledge partners. High Impact Professionals is one of the pledge partners, so you're very welcome to sign it through us. There are also opportunities at this conference to sign the pledge. So if you're interested, that's a fantastic way to just make it easier to really do those donations in the future. Second one. Leveraging a network. So this one can be a little bit uncomfortable, especially at the start. And just because it feels a bit uncomfortable, I would encourage you not to shy away from it if it could be a good option for you. Really high level, you have all of those 3 options, i.e. money, skills, and network, that you can influence here. So you can influence your network to either donate more or to donate more effectively. You can influence your network to use their skills to do good. Or, and this one's getting a bit meta now, you can influence your network to influence their network to create the snowball effect so that they can pull in more people to push to more good happening in the world. So what does this look like in practice, or what could this look like in practice? Last year, I publicly shared a big milestone that I had with my donations. And I said before that it can be really uncomfortable. I thought this was incredibly uncomfortable at the start. In fact, I thought it was so uncomfortable that I removed it from my to-do list. And in fact, I removed it twice because I just didn't feel confident enough to do that. I did do it in the end, and the difference for me was other people who also talk about it. So not just can you encourage other people to use their money in better ways, use their skills in better ways, but also you can encourage others to talk about it more, and then having the snowball effect again. Okay, another one in the money category, which is founding to give. The idea of founding to give is that you set up a startup with the goal of scaling it quickly and then donating a percentage or a chunk of the profits that you're making. This could be ongoing donations, but the thing that it normally refers to is at the point of exit, i.e. at the point that you sell the company, you donate a percentage of that exit money that you get from selling your company. It is a great path for people that are more comfortable with risks, because obviously a startup could go really well and could also not go really well. So it is just a little bit less certain than having a stable career and donating a percentage of your income. However, it can have really big upsides. So if this goes well, you're probably likely to be able to donate more than you could if it's just your ongoing salary or a percentage of that. There's also a fantastic community for this. So if you're interested in the Founding to Give path, do check out Founders Pledge. They're an amazing community of over 2,000 founders who have signed this pledge and pledged a percentage of their exit money. Okay, so we talked about influencing your network, your personal and professional connections, but you can also influence your company. This could look like, again, it's different ways of how you can do it. This could be influencing that there's some donations that happen within the company that the company might make, moving them to more effective organizations, or making sure that donations are doubled from the company. So some donation matches happen already. If that doesn't list effective charities, making sure that those are on the list. Or you could run a fundraising campaign. There are lots of different ways how you can do it. Could be a pro bono project, lots of different ways that you could do. And if you want to find out more about what those things might look like, we've done a webinar with Giving What We Can on that last year. So we have a blog post on that on our website, which is also in the resources. So do check that out. There are really different ways and lots of different ideas of how you could be leveraging your network within your company. The thing to keep in mind here is that the counterfactual potential, i.e. what would happen if you didn't do this thing, is a really big difference. Because chances are, if you didn't do it, the next person who, like the person who sits next to you in the office probably wouldn't do it either. So it's a big difference of the fundraiser happening or the fundraiser not happening. This is particularly interesting for the more mid-career to senior end of people, because basically the more influence you have in your company, the more years you've been there or the more experience you have, the more you will be able to create change. This doesn't mean that someone who is more junior can't do this. It's just a little bit hard to do it. Okay. Advising and mentoring. So we're now in the skills category, and you might notice that the skills category are further down the list. So remember, we're talking about absorbency. It's just fewer people that can go down that path. If tomorrow everyone decided that they're going to donate a percentage of their salary, we would be okay. We might not fully know where we spend all of this additional money, but we could put it somewhere where it just increases itself, and then over time we would figure out what to do with this. If everyone were to decide, I now need to use my skills to do direct good, and especially as we go even further down this list, we would really struggle to put those people. So do keep that in mind. The advising and mentoring one is a really interesting one. I think it's, again, much more on the senior end, because the more skills you have, the more experience you have, the easier it is for you to pass on those crucial skills. If you're still pretty early, chances are you don't actually have that much more experience and knowledge and skills than the person that you're trying to support, so actually there's not much that you can help them with. There are two fundamentally really different ways how you can do this. You can basically support individuals or you can support organizations. So you could help individuals to get more effective, get better at their work, increase the skills that they have, or you can help an organization as a whole, so be on an advisory board, for example. The nice thing about this is really high leverage. For them, it's probably their full-time career that you're helping them, but for you, it will probably not be. So you might be doing a session with them every other week or once a month or something like that, which is way lower time commitment on your end, and you can have a really high lever to make them more efficient, more effective in their work. So you could actually help multiple people or multiple organizations this way, which is a fantastic way, and in some ways, possibly better than doing one full-time role where you can only help one organization. All right, not all high-impact work happens in high-impact organizations. Going to say that again. Not all the high-impact work that's happening in the world is happening in organizations that label themselves as high-impact. There's a lot of high-impact work that's happening in the policy and government space. Again, this is really high potential leverage because you are shaping regulations, you are shaping policy, you're shaping something that influences a lot of actors, a lot of people, a lot of organizations, a lot of companies in that specific country and possibly even across borders. So this really has this multiplier effect. If you can get a change on a higher level, you might be able to affect a lot more people this way. It is also more risky. If you work in one organization, do something very concrete, it's much more tangible of what you're trying to enact. Whereas within the government, where there's a lot of party politics going on, it's actually much harder to get something through. You might need far more compromises to get something through, and actually you might find that you're just banging your head against the wall, and then the next party comes around the following year or so and just undo everything you've did. So it is more risky and also has the potential to just have a higher lever and a higher effect. It can also obviously be done across any country. There's governments in place in a lot of countries, in all countries, so that can be a fantastic way to do that anywhere where you are. Okay. Working in high impact organizations is obviously an option. This, I think, for a lot of people, at least from what I'm hearing, at least from the people that I'm talking to a bunch of people who are trying to pivot their careers, this can be treated as the only way to have high impact. Given this is number 7 on my list, I think it's pretty clear that I disagree with this. There are lots of other ways how you can have a high impact career. And this one actually is really heavily bottlenecked. There are only so many organizations, there are only so many roles, there are only so many open roles at any given point. And there are a lot of people that are trying to get into those organizations. So it can be really hard to get in. You can have really high impact potential if you do get in, especially if you're particularly well placed and are much better than the next person they would have otherwise hired. But really, you can also just spend years banging your head against the wall, not doing any good in that period. And maybe one of the other parts would be available to you. In fact, some of them are kind of always open roles. You can always find, if you are in a position where you have a role and you are in a position that you can donate, that is something that is your choice to do that if you are in a position where that makes sense to you, obviously. So this one really is the path that's discussed a lot, is by far the most popular one. It feels nice because you work with people who are value aligned, you work with other people who are pushing, you work for an organization that has a great mission. So this is a super popular one. It is not the one that the whole world could decide we definitely want to do this, because we simply do not have the capacity for this at the moment. If you decide to go down this path, just be really strategic about it. There are better ways to find roles than sending cold applications. We have a blog post on that on our website as well, so you might want to check that out. It's a topic that I could easily spend a whole hour just on that. I won't be doing that because I don't have the time. It's a really fascinating topic, so do make sure you are very strategic about how you find those roles. Volunteering. So volunteering, I think, can be a really good way to showcase your skills, grow your network, get some concrete experience of working in high impact organizations. It's also really easy for volunteering to be not an amazing outcome for the organization because it does take overhead on their end, it does take management on their side of things. So it does cost them time. Even if it doesn't cost them money, it does cost them time. So if you do volunteering, make sure you know what you're getting yourself into, make sure you can actually do the hours and the time that you've committed to, make sure that you do great work for the organization. This can work really well. So in our Impact Accelerator program, we get amazing support from alumni of the program who are volunteer facilitators for us, and it's really a fantastic way for us to grow the program, help more people than we could do. There's no way I can run 15 cohorts by myself. There is a way, and we've just done it, how we can run 15 cohorts with this fantastic volunteer support. So it can work really well. We've seen it work incredibly well. I'm a great fan of volunteering when it is done right. I think often it is not done right. So keep that in mind. Also, if you want to go down the volunteering path and you want to reach out to an organization, try to make it easy for them to say yes. So send them an idea, send them, hey, this is how I can help you. This is what I could do for you. Ideally, here's an example of something similar that I've done so that it's easy for them to say, oh yes, this makes sense. Yes, please, can we have you as a volunteer? Okay, we're going into the more senior end of the scale again, which is joining a board of directors. So a little bit like with the advising and mentoring, you want to make sure that you have some significant experience and skills that you can use to help shape the organization. Also, like we've seen with the advising and mentoring, you have a real leverage point here. You maybe do a few hours a month supporting them and a couple of big meetings a year, and you can really help steer the strategy and the overall idea of the organization and make sure that it is as effective as it possibly can be. So it's a really great way for you with relatively little time have a really big potential impact helping those organizations. Okay, that leaves one, another very popular one, which is founding your own organization. I think this is, if you can pull it off, and there's lots of examples of people having done this, it can be a really high impact and specifically really high counterfactual impact. So remember, what would happen if you didn't do this? Well, this organization wouldn't exist, or probably wouldn't exist. So if you can create an organization that does a huge amount of good, otherwise probably wouldn't exist, that's a really big difference between the world where you didn't do this and the world where you do this. However, it is not easy. A lot of skills are required to build an organization, shape an organization, make sure that it runs successfully. And also, it's at the bottom of my absorbency scale because not everyone can do that. There's simply not enough money in the ecosystem at the moment for everyone to start their own organization. It would also not be effective at all and not very efficient for the organizations if everyone did their own one man or one woman organization. There have to be collaborations, there have to be bigger organizations. So not everyone can do this, but if you're in a situation where this is a good path for you, then that can be really powerful. If there's a path you want to go down, I would recommend that you do that with a co-founder. There's good data on that shows that this is more likely to be successful. And also, if you can do it via a program or via an incubator, that makes it more likely to succeed because they have a lot of experience that they can help you with. They have a lot of contact. They have lots of other resources that they can help you with. So for example, there's the Charity Entrepreneurship Program from Ambitious Impact. They're doing a talk at this conference, so you might want to check that out. ProVeg has Kickstarting for Good, and Catalyze Impact is also doing incubation support in the AI safety space. So different organizations for different course areas, if that's of interest to you. So as a reminder, there are lots of different ways. There's something for everyone. Don't say, oh, I got another rejection from a high impact organization, therefore I can't at all have a high impact. That's not at all true. There are lots of different ways. You can use either your skill, your money, or your network to do good. So lots of options for you, which hopefully is a very exciting message that there's a lot of space for everyone to do a lot of good in the world. Okay, I promised you a secret 11th option, so here it is. It's the career portfolio. It's basically you mix and match. So some of those might lend itself to be combined with others. We've said, for example, that the board role is something that won't take your full working week or your full working hours. Equally, donations you can do fairly easily on the side. There are other things that you can be mix and matching into this. So picking a few and running them in parallel means you can possibly have more impact. It means you can spread yourself over different course areas. So if you want to work in one course area, say you work in AI safety, but you donate to farmed animal welfare, you have 2 areas covered rather than just focusing on one. So it can be a really good way to increase the impact that you can make. Obviously, everything comes with a con. This one does as well. They're task switching costs. So there's some things that don't lend themselves to each other. You can't do literally all 10 parts because some of them take your whole week and you can't add many more things on. You might be able to add one more on, but certainly don't just keep slapping on things. It doesn't necessarily, like at some point you will actually be less effective with that strategy. Okay. How can we support you on your path going forwards? So just a few things about high impact professionals, and I will talk about it more in the office hours after this session. If you want to explore this in more detail and really figure out more of, okay, what might be a good path for you? How can you get there? Which is the path and getting onto that path? The Impact Accelerator program might be a good path, might be a good program for you. So make sure that you join our newsletter so that you find out when the next round of applications is launching. Same for our talent directory, happy to tell you more later on. Basically, it's a big database of people who want to transition into high impact careers, specifically working for high impact organizations. So pop your profile onto there. And then we also, very excitingly, have a new book coming out at the beginning of next year. So again, hop over to the website and you will be able to learn more about that and also make sure that you hear about whenever the launch happens, which will be at the end of January. Okay, so as I said at the start, learning more is good. Applying it to your situation and taking concrete action is better. So therefore, we'll do a bit of an exercise. This one is really there for you to figure out, okay, then what might be some paths that are good for me? What are some paths that I could be exploring? The main part of this exercise is going to be brainstorming exercise. So you want to go wild with your ideas, come up with as many options as possible. We're asking you to do 20 on the worksheet that you should have the link to and can copy. But if you can come up with more options, that's great. Do group them very sensibly. So don't write down fundraising role in and then just list 20 different organizations. That's not actually going to be helpful, but be really creative of what might be some paths for you. Not all of them have to be great. That's the nice thing about brainstorming. If there are some really wacky ones out there that actually is something you know you won't go through with, that's perfectly fine. They might just spark another idea. So write it down anyway. You won't need to push for all 20 of them, obviously, but this is just to generate new ideas to come out of the few options that you might be considering at this point. And while 20 might look like a lot in our Impact Accelerator program, we actually get people to write down 30, so you're getting the nicer version here. Right, so with that, I invite you to take a copy of that worksheet and do put the next 20 minutes or so into writing down some options, coming up with what might be some next steps. You should also have a link to the slides, so if you want to go back to any of the parts or have a look at any of the resources, as I said, there's a lot of whole slides on resources that you can get access to from the slides. So do check that out. And then I'll be doing my office hours after this as well. So join me there if you have any questions. Very happy to answer them there. Thank you very much for joining me. And I hope you come up with some good options that you may have not considered before.